Hi everyone, and welcome back to tutorial number 2 of the Algorithm in Python series. If you recall, back in tutorial number 1 of this series, we did the bubble sort algorithm in Python, and today we're going to be learning about the linear search algorithm in Python. What linear search does is that it takes an item and it checks if that item is in a specified list. If it is, it returns back some kind of information back to the user that says the item is in the list and successful or something like that. Or if the item is not in the list, it returns some information back to the user that the item is not in the list or unsuccessful or something like that. Whatever you want it to say. So we're going to jump right into the linear search algorithm in Python program. We're going to be programming this as a function, and as you know, all functions start with def for definition. And we're going to name our function linear search. We're going to have two arguments. The first one is going to be the list, and I'm just going to name this my list. And the second one is going to be the item, which is the thing that you're going to check the list for. And remember, end it with a colon as usual. So what we're going to do now is we're going to do a for loop. And this for loop is going to iterate or go over each of the elements of the list that you are checking. And as it goes over each of the elements one by one, it checks if this element matches up with the item, and then it goes to the next element if it doesn't match, and it asks the same question over and over until it matches. When it matches, we're going to program it to return back to the user that it was successful, and if it doesn't match, which means that all of the elements have already been checked and none of them matched the item, then we want to return back to the user that it was unsuccessful and that the item was not in the list. So we're going to do the for loop that iterates over the elements of my list. For I in range of 0 to the length of my list. So this bit of code, this for loop, programs the computer to go over each of the elements in the my list. So for I in range 0, comma, length of my list, and then end it with a colon. If my list I is equal to item, return print statement item was found at position. So what this line of code does, these two lines of code, this if statement is if my list at index I, so if while we are checking the elements of the list using the for loop, if at any point any of the elements matches up with the item, then we want to return this. And once we've returned it, then it breaks the program, it breaks the function, and the program is over. But if it doesn't reach this point, the only reason it will not reach this line of code is that none of the elements matches with the item. And we want to return that it was unsuccessful if it doesn't reach this line of code, because we want to return that the run was unsuccessful if the item isn't in the list. So we're just going to type in return, and just so you know, my return indentation matches with the for loop indentation, and that's really important in this case. Return the print statement -1, the item was not found. So what this -1 means, many programmers use -1 as a term of saying not there. So why did we put return here? Because the only reason for the program to reach this line of code is that none of the elements matched up with the item. And if that is the case, we want it to return this, which is why we printed it, which is why we returned here. So we're just gonna run this. So I'm just gonna create my list in the Python shell. You can create your list in the program right here, but I'm just going to quickly whip up my list in the Python shell, which is where my cursor is. So I'm just going to quickly whip up a list. 1, 3, 5, 4, 8, 7. That's our list. And we're going to call the linear search function. If you don't know how to do that, then just watch it. You type in the name of the function, linear search, you do brackets, and you replace each of the arguments with your own terms. So my list argument is going to be replaced with list, because that's what we're checking. And the item, let's say somebody says, I want to check if 9 is in the list. It returns -1, the item was not found, because 9 is not in the list. Now, if we do this, if we call the linear search function on the list and something that is in the list, we're going to get an error because, and the reason of error is right here on line 4. Item is an integer. Item and I are integers, and we don't want that because if you watch any of my earlier videos, you'll know that Python, when dealing with the data types, it doesn't like different data types to go with different data types. So this won't work when you're having a string with 2 integers. So we need to change these 2 integers, item and I, we need to change it to strings. And we do that by typing str and wrapping these brackets around item, and then we do the same thing for I, str, and wrapping these brackets. So doing this quick lines of code, we've changed item and I to strings. So we're just going to save this, and I'm quickly going to whip up the same list. 1, 3, 5, 6, 4, 9, 8, and 2, and we're going to call the linear search function on the list and something that isn't in the list. And as you can see, again, it says -1, the item was not found because 10 is not in the list, and we're going to call the linear search function again. Linear search, and we're going to call it on the list and something that is in the list. Let's say 5. So we're checking if 5 is in the list, and it says 5 was found at position 2, and let's check 0, 1, and 2. 5 was found at position 2. I'm just going to add a space here, so there's a space between the number, the item, and was. But in a nutshell, that is how you program the linear search algorithm in Python. If you liked the video, please drop it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And I'll be back soon with my next video on Python Hangman, my different series on how to make a Python Hangman game very soon.